you. So I just want to invite you to sit down and just welcome us for this conversation. My name is Melinda. I am one of the pastors here at Northeast, and I can promise you that I am not up here today because I am an expert on burnout. That's not why I'm here. In fact, I might be an expert on what to do to get burnout, but these are the experts on what not to do. So we're going to have a really great conversation, and I know that we are sometimes really good at hearing concepts about things like, you know, we've got to give our schedules over to God. We've got to trust that He is our strength, and it's not because of our strength that we can get things done. And we can be reminded of all these things, but sometimes it's really hard to put that into practice. So as Becky said, the goal for today is just for you to hear some more tangible, practical tips and things to add to your playbooks to make sure that we're keeping our hearts and our minds focused on what really matters. So I want to give each of these lovely people an opportunity to introduce themselves. If you guys will just share your name, where you work, your favorite thing about your job, and how long you've been at Northeast.
Well, good morning. I'm Tara McKinley. I'm the Assistant Director of the Pediatric Medical Residency Program at U of L. I have been with the program about 12 years. I've been Assistant Director for about 5. One of my research interest areas is physician burnout, which is why I'm here today. And one of my favorite things about my job is really the problem-solving, thinking outside of the box kind of research aspect of things. And what was the last question? Oh, how long have we been at Northeast? My husband and I have been attending since about 2009.
Awesome. I've got a couple quick lightning round questions to help you really get to know Tara. So what's your favorite city in the United States other than Louisville?
Oh, Denver, Colorado.
Scale of 1 to 10, how good of a driver are you?
9.5.
9.5? Skittles or M&Ms?
Skittles.
Okay. All right. And next we have
Rena Gratz. We have been at Northeast for 4 years. Very happy to be here. I currently work as Executive Director of the Early Childhood Programs for Jefferson County Public Schools. And of course, then I have a lot of favorite things about my job, but my most favorite thing is the kids. We work with the most challenging, most at-risk population in our city. And so getting to love on these kids is absolutely the best thing about my job, and it's the thing that keeps me centered.
Awesome. Okay, some lightning round stuff. How many hours of sleep do you need to function?
Man, you really
just
got
any
me right
number.
away.
When you're burned out or not burned out?
Not burned out.
I would say 6.
6. All right. What's your favorite carnival or fair food?
Corn dogs.
Corn dogs. All right. And what's your middle name? Oh, I didn't know this.
Victorina is my middle name,
All right,
actually.
awesome. Now we know Rena. Thank you
Now
so
you know
much. All right, and last.
My name is Keith McKinney. I'm the president of Piping Layout Consultants and a partner with Infinity Design and Construction Group. My favorite thing about my job is just seeing our team grow spiritually and professionally. And we've been attending Northeast for 13 years.
Awesome. All right, how many push-ups in a row can you do?
Now or
No,
used
you don't have to do it. Just throw a number out.
Maybe 25.
25? Okay.
Maybe.
Cake or pie?
Cake.
What's your favorite holiday?
Christmas.
All right, awesome. Well, truly, each of these folks brings such a unique perspective, a unique experience, and we're going to learn so much from them. So we're going to just keep going with our conversation. I want to ask you guys, I know you shared what your favorite thing about your job is, but what is it that helps you keep the passion alive, the excitement alive for what you do day to day?
I get to go first. So I'm in a kind of interesting field in medical education because we deal with physicians who are taking care of patients, and we also have kind of this science education part. So I think for me, I'm in charge of our wellness programming, so sometimes that takes a lot of extra effort, I think, and really getting the buy-in from our faculty and our residents and seeing people participate and kind of take responsibility for their own well-being and seeing their excitement and how they will kind of let us into their lives and getting to know people a little bit better.
That's good. Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, a little bit similar to what Tara said. I'm also kind of a creative thinker. So in my job, we get to solve a lot of problems and think outside of the box in order to get solutions. And so that is one thing that I'm really passionate about. And but really, again, remembering my why. On the most challenging days, I remember why I'm there. I'm there not for me, not even for the people who work directly with me, but really for the children and the families. And that's what helps me to keep that passion alive, because they're absolutely worth fighting for. They're God's kiddos. So
That's awesome.
Well, for me, it just starts with all the cool things that we get to do in our business every day, because we do 3D spatial scanning, so the technology is really cool. We get to do 3D modeling and engineering and design, and if you're into that field, it's really fun. But over the last couple of years, I think bringing the spirituality part of that piece to the workplace has allowed me to see growth that I never thought I would see before in both areas, spiritually and professionally. So that's really fun for me to see them grow that way.
Awesome. So when you think about that passion and what helps you keep it alive, can you remember a time when maybe you didn't have that same energy or excitement? How do you overcome that? What's something that you've had to do in your own life, in your professional life, to overcome those feelings of not always feeling that passion every day?
Oh, are we going down the line every time? Okay, we can do that. It's totally fine. I should have prepared an answer for this, I think. I think for me personally and the people that I talk to in my research, there's a lot of kind of a consensus that you need to make a decision on whether what you're doing is worth it. And if that's what you want to spend your life doing and dedicate your life to, then, making that decision to find the meaning and kind of turn your attitude around and show up every day. And like Rena said, remember what your why is and focus on that rather than focusing on the bottom line or the numbers or the, electronic health records and all the pieces of your job that really get you down.
Yeah, that's really good. Anybody else?
I can. Starting with God every day, we have part of our new vision statement at our companies that is God, family, and work, and it's not just in a sentence, and it's in that order. And we started doing that quite a few years ago. So we start with God 5 days a week by doing a 30-minute devotion, which is voluntary. We have a lot of attendance to that. And then the second piece of that is family. We always let our folks take care of their family. That comes before anything we do at work. And what I've found is allowing everyone to do that has energized the team, and they just bring a better attitude to work every day.
That's awesome. So we've been talking, Tyler taught about what it means to really live and to work at a holy pace. What does that look like for you? What does that mean?
Okay, so I'm going to start by adding to the full disclosure that Melinda started with. When Tyler first asked me to do the workplace burnout panel, you know what they say about things getting lost in translation in text messages? So Tyler texted me, burnout, and I said, yeah. And he interpreted that as, yeah. So that's partly why I'm here. Because really, I feel like, yeah, oh my. It has been a struggle that I've had all my life. I think many of us understand when you are performance driven that burnout can easily engulf you without you even noticing it. Because you're just going. And so it's something that I've had to really intentionally think about. And God has actually had to make things happen in my life for me to come to that realization that I need to remember who I really work for and why I'm really doing this, that He called me to this. And so taking care of myself first is really important. And my husband will tell you, I'm a work in progress. I still work at it, but remembering to give myself permission to take care of myself first. Like the oxygen mask metaphor, in an airplane, that's why you have to put the mask on yourself first before you put it on your kid. It's so important to remember that.
Well, that's, like we start our day every day with God. So when you start getting burned out, if you start there, it makes the day go a whole lot better because you can see, multiple people walk in a room and you can already tell that, hey, they're happy, they're not, they're having a bad day, their dog's sick, and you can kind of work through all those things before you get started in your day. So that helps tamp that down quite a bit. Another thing I started doing, but it's kind of weird for me because I try to work humbly, serve up, not down. So I sit with my team 45 minutes. I allow each person to come and sit with me, and we just talk about whatever they want to. So they take that time to just talk about anything they want to, and most of the time, unfortunately, it's work. But they have that time that they could just sit and talk. And then I guess the other thing I would say to that is, I'm I guess a Gen Xer, I don't know. But we were taught with the baby boomers to work. And I was kind of that way when we started the business in 2004. So one thing I had to realize is if I quote a job, if it's 2 days, it's 3, right? So I'm going to put enough time in the job to allow for mistakes. Human beings are going to make mistakes. That's just part of us. So if you just allow more time to do things, and then people can get through them better.
Mm-hmm. So I think this is an interesting question, and this may seg into a later question. And I'm going to come at this and give you a disclaimer that I, like most of us, am a poster child for being overcommitted. So I work full time. I volunteer at the zoo. I have a home cookie business. So slowing down and living at a holy pace is not necessarily something that I'm good at. But I think one thing to keep in mind too is living at a holy pace isn't just necessarily about the pace. It's also about the meaning and the why of what you're doing. And so, doing a lot of those extra activities for me, I go do science all day long. And so getting to work with kids or work with my hands, yes, it's an extra task and it's an extra something else on my plate, but it's one of those things that fills my tank at the end of the day or on the weekend, which really then allows me to walk into the workplace on Monday and take care of the people that I work with and listen to them when they're bringing up, problems and difficulties and things like that. And I think that's one thing that we, no matter where you are in the org chart, that's something you can listen to your coworkers. You can ask them how their weekend was. And that doesn't necessarily come easily to me. I would much rather be in a corner with my spreadsheet for sure. But having those activities that really fill my tank so that I can approach the workplace ready to be in that position is a way that personally I live at a holy pace.
So
can I add to that too? Thanks, Tara, for reminding me. I had to intentionally say that that I will give at least equal time to the Lord, because we are asked, what does your schedule look like, and how much of that is for you and for other idols in your life versus for the Lord. But when I looked at my calendar, it was crazy. Like, when, Lord? And so what I actually did, and Coach Sat today helped me to remember that, is I simply asked God to make time. I gave my calendar to him, and I said, Lord, I don't know how to do it, so you make the time for me. So I know that sounds a little strange, but try it, because really, he pointed me in the right directions, and the things that I thought I didn't have margin for, I was able to do for him, to do his work. And that actually helped me to have balance in my life and to let go of some of the things that I thought wouldn't happen and wouldn't happen well without me. They were just fine. And instead, I was giving more of my time to him. So to me, living at a holy pace also means committing to ask God to always carve out that time in my life for him.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that too. I'm glad you brought that up because I actually just did this last week. I actually put lunch on my calendar because I share my calendar with my organization, and I put it private so they can't see what I'm doing. So if they see that boxed out, they won't schedule anything there because I'm the world's worst, like you just said, of just trying to do too much. And I've got stuff, I call it kicking the can down the road. I'll have 1,000 things done today, 1,000 things tomorrow. But if you look at my schedule for next week, there's nothing on it, which is not smart. So you kind of got to throw that stuff out further in the future. And I'm trying to do that now, and it's a work in progress.
Absolutely. Work in progress. That's good. So when we talk about this word burnout, I really don't like that word. For me, I think of it in the way that I think of balance, of just like, is it really possible to not feel that way? I'm coming out of a season where I think I really was dealing with some burnout, and someone asked me that. And I was like, don't we all just feel that way? Like, isn't that just what life is supposed to feel like? And they were like, no, it's not. So from your perspectives, what would you say are some of the more common causes of burnout, either that you've seen in your own life or in the people who work with you or for you? What are some of those common causes?
Well, I think Tyler spoke on a few of these a couple weeks ago. Lack of sleep, that's the first one. You know, when you say how many hours it's going to take you to be functional, 6, I think you said. So you gotta get some sleep, and I'm good at it. I'm a professional sleeper, so. So sleep, and then lack of exercise, and then in the obvious things in the workplace is you just have too much to do on your plate. When I got into the engineering field in the mid-90s, we had plenty of people to do all the jobs. But if you've worked through that period of time till now, you see that people left, the job stayed the same. So overwork is easy because you have too much on your plate. So you really have to know when to say no.
Yeah, I would add to that too. I think very often for me, what trips me up is just my ego. It's being, like I said, being driven to get things done, and also to think that it has to be a certain way. Well, it doesn't always have to be a certain way. You can do your best and then let it go and let God anoint that work. And also, lack of humility, related to that. So all of those things not only create hardship for me, but really sets a bad tone and an example as a leader. When I don't have those boundaries, those margins, same thing. So a change that I've tried to make, is, for example, on weekends, I try not to send out emails unless they're absolutely an emergency. I know some of you are thinking, what? She's sending email? Yes. It's hard to not to fall in to the culture and the expectations of that worldly culture. A simple thing like typing my emails in draft over the weekend and not sending them until Monday morning, to me is a way to respect myself and respect, my colleagues.
So I have a little bit of a science answer as the science person on the stage. So one thing that's come up a lot in my research with various groups of people that I think is probably transferable to most of you guys in here is a lot of our jobs, and we've touched on this a little bit, there's kind of this conflict between the service part of your job and the things that you have to do and the things that have to get done. And whatever that little nugget of your job assignment is that really is meaningful to you and brings you the satisfaction. And that's the piece that you come home at the end of the day, you got to spend time doing that thing, and you feel like you've made a difference and you feel good about your day. And a lot of times the service things that have to get done really eat into that time. So as an example, for my academic physicians, you would think, oh, patient care, that's why they went into medicine. And that's definitely a really important part of their job, and one that they are very impacted by, and they have great stories. But at the end of the day, the patients are going to get taken care of, the medical records are going to get done, and a lot of times that comes at the expense of time spent with their learners. So they don't get as much time with the students and the residents as they might like. And that's, when you have a conflict on whatever that meaningful duty is, that's where you really see yourself sliding down that slope toward being exhausted and feeling burned out. And so really trying to pick out what that most meaningful part of your job is and doing whatever you can wherever you are to either increase the time or the quality of time that you get to spend on that, I think is the kind of, it wasn't a very personal answer, but.
That's okay. No, so this one's very personal. So what are the steps that each of you take when you start feeling like you're overwhelmed or a little overworked to protect your own schedule and your life and your family and all of those things? What are the steps that each of you take to do that?
Pray first.
Yeah.
Give it up to God. Max Lucado's got a good book out on, I can't remember the name of it. Let's see. Anxious for Nothing, I believe is what it is. And it's a pretty thick book, but he keeps hitting scripture in there, and it talks about being anxious. And it says, be anxious for nothing. So that's hard to do when you're feeling anxiety. So prayer first, and then just trying to get a hold of the schedule part of it. We've talked about that a little bit, is just trying to just pick things out that you can do. And don't try to do everything at once, because you're not going to solve the problem in a day. It's not going to happen. So that's two things that I do right off the bat.
I think for me, kind of immediately in the moment, I go outside, which I love Denver, so that should surprise nobody. But I will walk outside, and that just helps me kind of clear my head as far as whatever's going on. And a lot of times, depending on how you look at it, if you're in the state of mind that you can say, oh, there's my favorite kind of flower blooming. Maybe God put that in my path today, and I got to see that flower. And, sometimes little things like that, or I'm crossing the street, and the walk sign came on right as I got to the edge of the curb. So if you walk out with that kind of attitude, I think it's, you're out in the sun, you're breathing the fresh air, and you can kind of see those signs of God's presence around you. The other thing I do is I have, Tyler calls them last 10% friends, those people that really will speak truth into your life. I have one of those people on speed dial, and she, as we all do, we have cell phones, but, she absolutely will be there and be supportive and let me vent, but she will also come back and say, you're kind of being an idiot and overreacting, and you may need to take a step back and fix this problem, that kind of thing. So those are my big two.
That's good.
Very similar to that. I started this gratitude journal. Actually, my son, who's 21, is the one who encouraged me to do that. And so he's actually my accountability partner right now on that, which is awesome. But I started a gratitude journal on my phone. There's plenty of apps out there. I chose the simplest one so that it would be really easy to commit to. And what I do is I try to start with that every morning. After I pray, I actually take it out and I actually start thinking about what I'm grateful for or what I'm looking forward to. And then throughout the day, as things come up, I try to pull that up, even if I just add a phrase or a sentence to it. It just really has helped me to, number one, start my day in the right frame of mind. And then number two, to keep thinking about the things that you are grateful for. They say that is really, practicing gratitude is really one of the strongest ways to combat that overwhelming feeling, or that feeling like you may not be doing the right thing, or not accomplishing what you need to accomplish. Just being grateful is really one of the things that has helped me. The other piece is really creating that culture in the workplace for people to be able to tap out. In my work, our teachers are heroes. I mean, they have the hardest jobs. And one of the things that we've encouraged and actually sort of institutionalized is this thing we call tap out system, where we actually ask staff to be able to, we give them permission actually, and we encourage them to tap out when things are hard. What that meant is that they would lean on each other, on their teammates. You're my buddy. If I need 5 minutes to breathe, I'll tap out. You take my kids right now. And that doesn't always translate well, but there's always a way to do that at your workplace, to create that culture, that healthy culture that says, we all experience this. We all go through a really tough, challenging times, and we need to take care of each other. So that really is the message.
I love that. Yeah, yeah.
So, Terry, you reminded me of something. I almost totally forgot. One of the biggest things I do is reach out to my men's group. So I got to give those guys a shout out because probably about 6 years ago, I started into a men's group on Saturday mornings, and one of the things that was said there is that you need to have at least 6 people that know everything about you. And of course, I went, that's not going to happen. But over time, it happened, and I can't say enough about having those people around you that you know, they know everything about you, you know everything about them, and you can call them anytime and ask for guidance and help, and that's a big rock. So I can't believe I missed that. But
that's okay.
So
that's good. Community, so important. Well, we said we wanted to give you practical, tangible ways to respond to feeling this way, and so Tara's going to talk to you guys for a couple minutes. She shared she has got so much experience, knowledge, research, education related to this topic, and so she's going to guide you through just a little exercise for the next few minutes. So
Sure, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time, so I'm not going to stand up here and expound on my research. If you want me to, I'm happy to talk about it, but I won't up here. Like Melinda said, we really want to give you some practical tips to go home with. You've heard a lot of practical advice and advice in what people do this weekend. So if you have your playbook or the note card you got in the back, you can go ahead and pull that out. The first thing, and this is something I do when I do workshops with our physicians, our medical students, you know, really a variety of people. The first thing I want you to think about is that most meaningful nugget of your job that we were talking about earlier, your why, what you get up for every day, why you go into work. Just jot that down quickly. I feel like we should have background music. Let me sing the Jeopardy. Do, 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 do.
you don't want me to sing.
Right. And then as a follow-up to that, what can you do as an active step to either increase the amount of time that you have for that most meaningful part of your job, or to increase the quality of it? You know, a lot of you guys have control over your schedules, and you can schedule in a block for lunch, or you can, you know, kind of change the way your day is laid out or your work assignment. Some of you cannot, so it may include maybe a conversation with your supervisor or a coworker, like Rena was saying, being able to tap out. For some of you, it might be a wake-up call that maybe the industry you're in or the job you're in is not necessarily where you need to be if there isn't that one meaningful nugget. So the second thing we're going to write down, and you heard a lot of great tips about this on the stage from both Rena and Keith this morning, is really one thing that's come up in my research is the interpersonal kind of cultural connection at work. And I guess the closest thing to a fulcrum or a turning point between people who are burned out and who are not burned out is the recognition or appreciation piece. So the people who are not burned out and who are thriving at work really talked about how they felt recognized for the work they were doing, they felt appreciated for the effort they were putting in. And that didn't always mean awards and accolades. Those are important sometimes, but a lot of times it was just somebody telling them thank you for a job well done. You know, it may be starting a staff meeting where everybody can give kudos or a shout out to their coworkers, you know, little things like that. So for the interpersonal piece, write down something you can do wherever you are in the org chart, in your organization, whether it's a volunteer activity, wherever it is that you have influence, something that you can do interpersonally to affect the culture where you work. And then the third thing I always include or encourage people to write down is exactly what Melinda asked earlier, and that's the action plan for when you are feeling exhausted or burned out or kind of at wit's end. You know, most of us, at least in this arena, are in a healthy place right now, but when you're really feeling that stress and that exhaustion, a lot of us jump to coping mechanisms that may not be the healthiest for us. Some of those are really obvious and maybe, you know, substances or unhealthy relationships, but a lot of us will zone out on social media or we'll binge watch something that is not great, or we may hang out with people that aren't great influences or they're enablers or things like that. So I like to have everybody leave with just an action plan, like something that we talked about, a step or two, a person you can call, but something you can turn to when you are feeling stressed out and kind of at wit's end.
You good? All right, thank you so much. Will you thank these guys for being with us today? I am going to close with prayer, but I think we all just want you to be reminded and affirmed that your identity is not found in the tasks that you complete or the projects that you turn in early or anything like that. Your identity is found in your relationship with Christ. And so put that at the front, and everything else can flow from that. And that's our prayer for you today. So will you please bow your heads with me as we close? Father, I thank you so much for this weekend, just how impactful it has been for our church family, for our community. I'm so excited to start hearing the stories of the ripples effects that are going to come from the lives of every single person in this room. And I just thank you for the opportunity to hear from these folks on the stage who are just like the rest of us. They're normal people who have really identified ways to approach this topic. And I pray that what we've heard today and learned today can be implemented into our lives, and that it will help us grow closer to you and become more like you so that we can share you with the people in our workplaces. It's in your name that we pray. Amen. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have kids in children's ministry, please go pick them up. They're going to be so excited to see you. Thanks, guys.